Hey everybody, grace and peace. Good morning. Good morning. This is a impromptu, unscheduled, members only live stream. And I just want to jump in very quickly and just say good morning, say hello to everybody. Hopefully everybody's uh November is starting off fantastic. It's been a busy month already. We're only on day 4. But we're gonna make it through. We got a lot to do this month. So I'm looking forward. Lots of good things happening. So I'm looking forward to it. I just want to just jump on very quickly and give a lay of the land for some of the things that are going to be going on this month and kind of hear what you all got going on, all that kind of good stuff like that. So thank you so much for jumping into the best live chat on the internet. Real quick, real quick. I'll just start off very quickly. Pilgrim's Progress book discussion is tonight. I'm pretty sure we're going to be doing it every Tuesday. So just give me a heads up. We'll be doing our Pilgrim's Progress book discussion. And it's just going to be an hour discussion talking about the book and some of the things that you can extract from it and maybe even where you might be. So I've developed 4 series of questions pertaining to the book, and I got to find the best way to upload them. Maybe I'll just put them on my Buy Me a Coffee page. You can just grab them off of there, so you can have they're in PDF for discussion 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then you kind of know those are the questions we're going to be kind of talking about, or maybe some of the things we're going to be discussing during the book study, book discussion, book talk, book read, whatever you want to call it. So that'll be starting today at 7:00, and the link, I'll make sure the link is down in the description of this video. I had it somewhere, did not pull it up, but I'll make sure we have it ready for you all in a moment. I'll make sure it's in here just in case you don't already have it. So that'll be for the book study tonight. Good to see you. How are you there? And if you remember, you're going to have to go back in time. And we've probably added, probably 10,000, maybe even more subscribers since the last time we mentioned Fani Willis. And it's been a while since we talked about Fani Willis, right? However, there was a case here in Georgia where she fired a young woman who was trying to help her out and tell her that she couldn't use certain funds the way that Fani was using them. And she fired that woman. And her name was Amanda Timson. She lives here in Georgia, here in Atlanta, rather. And she filed a whistleblower lawsuit against Fani. And Fani Willis was so deplorable. What I mean, she tried everything possible to just deluge this woman with discovery requests and all of this, just so much paperwork, just really to bog her down. Well, by God's grace, she prevailed, and she is a great lawyer. And Amanda Timson would like to come on Friday to give everybody an update because she's making a lot of headway with this case against Fani Willis. So I want to give you a heads up on that I'm going to probably have Amanda come on. It'll either be Thursday night or Friday night. I think she texted me and said Friday night. So we'll have her come on Friday night to give us an update on where her case is and what's going on with Fani Willis. Now, you might be like, well, why do I even care about Fani Willis? I'm only here to tap in on Candace Owens, or I'm only here. I don't know who Fani is. And that's understandable. One of the reasons why is I think she demonstrated and shows she represents rather a type of individual in the legal profession that would abuse her power and take advantage of persons that are under her. And sadly, the Amanda Timson story is horrible. So I'll actually make sure that the link to some of the other videos I've done with Amanda. She's been on the show before. She's talked about what's going on in her life and how literally Fani Willis kind of ruined her own life, ruined this woman's life, which is crazy work. So I'll have her on Thursday or Friday, but I'll make sure you know ahead of time. And let me bring my other Jason in. My other Jason can't come in for some reason. Oh, there he is. So I'll make sure that you know ahead of time. But I think it would be good for you to hear just some of this, especially if you've been paying attention to the Letitia James case, if you've been paying attention to all these other cases with these persons who brought lawfare against President Trump. It seemed like that lawfare is starting to that lawfare, the bill is coming due, and these people can't pay it. So, and don't forget, Fani Willis has um, a hearing before the Georgia Senate um, next month. I'm sorry, in January. In January, she has a hearing against with the Georgia Senate where she has to come and sit and talk. I know y'all remember seeing Amanda Timson and all these others that sat before the Georgia Senate. Well, now they got Fani's number, and Fani's going to have to come. And Fani still has problems up in D.C. So I think the reason I want to make sure we stay in tune with this one, because I know we haven't been talking about a lot of the other cases that have been going on, again, like the Letitia James case and stuff going on with Brandon Johnson up in Illinois. And I might need to bring, get those back. But y'all got to make sure you watch those videos, man, and let me know that you like them, because I try to give y'all what y'all like. But I think this one is necessary because this one go full circle. Finally, we can come full circle because we watched Fani Willis when she was prosecuting Trump. Nobody's above the law and all this stuff. Come and find out, she thought she was above the law. So anyway, Amanda will be on Thursday or Friday. I'll make sure you know ahead of time. So I just want to give you a heads up on that. Yeah, it was As the Peach Turns. There we go. I might need to bring that back. Maybe we'll do a little recap As the Peach Turns. I still got those videos, those intros. But so Amanda will be coming on Thursday or Friday. I have book study every Tuesday this month. We're going through Pilgrim's Progress. And what I did, let me go back to Pilgrim's Progress. Everybody's book is different. I've seen 2 or 3 people comment, and I've gotten a couple emails. Everybody has a different version of the book, which is fine. That means the page breaks are not the same, chapters are not the same, but the locations that Pilgrim travels are the same. So we're going to use those as our landmarkers. So we'll say, hey, we're reading up to Vanity Fair, or we're reading up to the Slough of Despair, or we're reading up to the Celestial City, whatever. So that way we at least have a marker, no matter what your page numbers are, no matter how your book is broken down. Because like I got the giant print or the larger print here, but I also have like the smaller print versions on my bookcase behind me. And anyway, however yours is broken down, where Pilgrim travels is going to still be the same. So there's that. We're reading up to page 47, which is the Palace of Deliverance. The Palace of Deliverance is where we're reading up to today. And it's chapter 6, The Palace of Deliverance, page 47, if you have this book. But if not, I think most of them are not that far off. They're not that far off. So anyway, so we got the book study. Amanda Timson's coming on. Oh my gosh. Oh, it does it on both of them? I forgot about that thing. I forgot those reactions. What else did I have here for y'all? Hey, thank y'all so much for tapping in yesterday when Frank from Nigeria came on. That was a lot of fun. He's a great guy, and I'm glad that y'all showed a lot of love to him. He was very encouraged, and every time he texts me or email me, rather, he's always been very thankful and grateful for you all. So thank you, the community, for being so welcoming to our guests. So hopefully that'll be the door opening for more guests. Who knows? I wanted to, there was a video I wanted to go over real quick. You know what? This one is not too long, and this will actually save me from having to do the video. So let's do this together. Good morning, everybody. I appreciate the best live chat on the internet. So y'all know that my dude is Ami Kozack. I like him, man. That guy is top tier comedy. Well, anyway, he was on Brandon Tatum show recently, and I wanted to talk about it. I was going to do a little response to it, and comedy, if you will. But I said, hey, why don't we do it together? So shout out. Thank y'all so much for tapping in this morning. And let's see what we got going on. But thank you, everybody who's already up in here. Yeah, Frank is a top tier guy. And he really was thankful, really appreciative of you all stopping through yesterday and giving your 2 cents and making him feel welcome. So thank you all very much. That's why I told him, I mean, he has a great channel, but we have the best live channel on the internet, hands down. Bar none. Catch me outside. Let's bring this in. And real quick,
Sir, thank you for having me. Good to be here.
Dude, you have to do a Tuck impression. Like you just like something. Because I just, the audience, if they have not heard you do that impression, is the funniest thing I've ever seen.
I mean, I don't know if I have to do anything. I mean, I don't want my speech to be policed, even though you are an officer. I mean, I always thought you were a political organization. I don't really understand that. I mean, why are you wearing red? Is that a communist color? I mean, I love communism and I love capitalism, but I hate it. I was molested by a demon. I really was. I believe that. I really do. Like at all. I'm asking questions. Nothing wrong with that. Like at all. Like seriously, like at all. And there you go.
Oh my gosh, dude. That's the funniest thing I've ever heard. But anyway, we can get to some more serious stuff. I just had to hear, like literally at the office, we all died laughing at the impressions.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Whoever told me that, hey, you got to watch him do Tucker Carlson, chef's kiss to you. I did not realize how funny that guy was. I'm sorry. He is. And again, I think because now I'm at an age where you don't have to like dress the full part and all that kind of stuff in order. I could see comedy in the more simpler things. So even there, like he didn't have the wig on and the Tucker Carlson attire, but that thing was hilarious. And he's done, oh my gosh, BB, he's done Mondani. I think he did Kamala one time. Oh my gosh, the Candace Owens ones, they're hilarious, man. You just have the spirit of the joke. You don't have to put in all of the work to do the costume and the externals because you have the whole. I hate to say you got the spirit of it, but you just got the spirit of the joke, man. And he has it down. I'm sorry, he is hilarious.
Hilarious to me. But you have your own podcast, and so obviously you talk about a wide variety of stuff. But the biggest topic here, man, and you get the backlash like I do. You getting paid $7,000 from whatever Hamas or so. I mean not Hamas, but Israel or whatever the case may be.
Right.
But obviously we're not. What's your thoughts on this, man? Like, why do you think that it's gotten this bad? Is it just terrible PR from Israel, or are people just losing their minds? Like, what's going on here?
You know, I think that it's a telling thing when they can't defeat your arguments, and when things I think are pretty morally clear on who the good guys are and the bad guys are in this scenario broadly, you have to make excuses. You have to find scapegoats. You have to find ways to discredit without being able to debunk the arguments that are actually being presented to you. So it must be that they're compromised in some way, and it must be that they're being paid off. And frankly, you know what? Like, I'm a capitalist, being paid to make content doesn't bother me, but nobody is really doing that. But in order to figure out why people are defending Israel in a way that the alternative to admitting that is to admit that you yourself have been propagandized and maybe misinformed and confused about an issue, because it seems very obvious to me the difference between, war and atrocity, the difference between terrorism and a Western army. And I think deep down, in the long run, people will look back at this time the way we look back at COVID, and there were a lot of people who succumbed to groupthink and said, man, what were we thinking during that time that we just kind of succumbed to this sort of sheepish mentality? And I think they'll look back on this and say, did we really question Hamas versus Israel as to really kind of knowing who the good guys and bad guys were? And I think when you're faced with evil that's so apparent in the form of Hamas on the 7th of October, there's different reactions to it. There's different approaches. Some people can face it head on and confront it, and some people shy away from it and can't accept that such an evil would exist, that people would be possessed by such evil ideologies. So there must be something else going on. There must be this grand conspiracy behind the scenes that makes the West responsible for what's going on here and have caused it. It's where the isolationists come in and say it's a reaction to Western imperialism or mingling in these conflicts that causes people to act this way. It can't just be ideologies that exist. Everyone just wants the same thing. And therefore, people supporting Israel must be compromised. And that's the ultimate way out of having to actually confront the truth. One of the things that people...
Let me stop for a second, because I agree with him. My only pushback is this doesn't apply only to Israel. This doesn't apply only to what's going on in Gaza or whatever like that. The same kind of argumentation could happen right here in the United States. Now, they might not say, hey, the reason you're calling out Planned Parenthood or the reason you're calling out the Democrat Party is because you're getting paid, but they might say something as simple as you're an Uncle Tom or you're a race hater or whatever of that nature. The same pejorative to try to dismiss your argument because they can't defeat your argument. And I do think that it's wise for us to become very comfortable with the name calling. Okay, fine. You call me a name. Now let's talk about the issue at hand. Okay, fine. All right. You've reverted to third grade. You're still calling names on the playground. But here in Adultville, we're still going to make adult decisions, and you have to deal with my argument. I am saying this and deal with those. And I think that's something we can take away from here. I don't think we should only apply it to what's going on over there, because I don't think that the vast majority of people aren't arguing about Israel and Hamas and Gaza. The vast majority of people are arguing about things stateside that we really do need to get into and confront. Go back to New York, Mamdani. Like, that has nothing to do with Gaza and such of that nature. Those are some horrible, horrible ideas that man wants to bring to one of our largest cities in the United States. How in the world did we get here? Fight that deal with the ideas. We don't need to worry about him as a person and call him names and make fun of his name. We need to deal with his issues or his policies, because those are what's going to destroy New York and probably America if we allowed it to go on. But let's keep it going.
Should be aware of in this whole conversation that's gone on over the last 2 years is, for people on the pro-Israel side, you're largely dealing with a whole lot of people who are very engaged, connected, have been to Israel, have either family there, friends there, have had real tactile experience, have been there and have formed their opinions based on a lot of experiential things that have happened and that have impacted them, versus a mass and mob of people who are reading headlines, watching TikTok, watching smear articles, listening to succumbing to a whole smear campaign, and it's all sort of in the abstract. It's not a personal experience for them or something that they know in terms of sources of people on the ground of what's actually going on. So we're sort of always talking cross purposes against a mass mob of people that's believing, what I would say is propaganda and secondhand sources and largely press that's compromised, especially from inside Gaza, where you're censored, where you're coming out of the Hamas run Gaza Health Ministry. So when you actually go there, you realize, wow, a lot of that Israel hate out there and a lot of anti-Semitic hate is noise. It's not grounded in any sort of reality. And when real historic moments happen, whether it's the attack on Iran, like things of actual consequence, you realize, wow, none of those people have any idea what's going on. They're all just talking heads. Even the 12-day war, when you're there and, I've spoken to people who were there throughout that process, and you see what's going on. And the only thing that truly matters is survival. And do you have the military advantage to defeat the enemy? And then you see people on Twitter making noise. It all just becomes static. Once you're there on the ground and Trump arrives and all these people in MAGA talking about how Israel is compromising America and dragging America into all these things, and there's all this hostility and tension, and Trump is met with a hero's welcome by the most left-wing Israelis. They have their divisions about Bibi, and it's very contentious about him because he's, their leader. It makes sense. In a democracy, it gets contentious. There's a lot of debate about it. That's what a free country is. But when Trump arrives, oh my God, he gets there and kills for an hour and a half in the Knesset. Wow, I think we're doing great. We brought him home. We did a great job. Bibi, come on, let him go. Pardon him. It's a little champagne, and he's killing it for now. They think it's a personality problem with me. I think it's working. Don't you think it's working, Brandon? I think it's working. Officer Tatum, we're doing great. But they are applauding him. There's signs all over Israel saying, "Thank you, Mr. President." And so you just get a very different experience that's not replicable online. It's not something that's reflected in the internet space.
It really bothers me. But do you think there could be a pathway to unity? Because I know Matt Walsh, which I'm not really a big fan of Matt Walsh, but I do respect what he does. But he tried to come out and say we need unity. There's a part of me that thinks there is no unity. There is no more left and right. There's right and wrong. Like, because they're cut from the same cloth on the right that are doing the same thing that we see them doing on the left.
Yeah,
Okay, I agree right there. I don't think there's a unifying principle that unifies the left and the right. There are going to be people that are going to have to abominate their demonic, wicked ideologies. We can't just say, oh, well, hey, you have two legs and you breathe and we can be unified. No, that's not it. The standard needs to be a little bit higher. We cannot unify with people that want to delete little people in the mother's womb. There's just no unity there. We cannot unify with people that do not believe that helping Americans is lesser than helping people around the world. We just can't unify with that. We just can't. There is no unity. There's no unity with people that think that I, as a black man, am lesser because I have more melanin, and have come up with all these wackadoodle pseudosciences to justify that. I can't unify with you. Now, I can unify with you if you are in Christ, because all of those things that we just mentioned before, those sins, get brought to the foot of the cross and they get dealt with in Christ. So if that's what we're talking about, then maybe we can see unity. We might be able to see unity, but you're not going to be talking about munching up children in their mother's womb. You're not going to be talking about some people groups are lesser than another people group just because of their skin color and where they were born. You're not going to be doing that. You're not going to be promoting ideas that destroy the nuclear family. So our unity has to be rooted and grounded in something tangible and something eternal, and dare I say something Christ-centric. So no, we can't just unify with everybody just because hey, you like what I like and I like what you like, therefore we can get together. No, we can't do that. So let's see what he says. Shout out to Officer Tatum and Ami
It's an
Kozack.
interesting parallel to exactly what happened on the Democratic side of things, where with increasing victory in the culture, if you look back, there were so many victories for the left in terms of cultural victories, gay marriage, Obama getting elected, gay marriage, all these things that sort of pushed the needle more in favor of that direction. But what did they do with the victory? If you look at it, they just kept going and kept going and kept going until eventually things became so fringe and extreme that the worst ideas of the left began to be embraced. Not the ones that we could all sort of compromise and agree upon and unify around in a tolerant society, in a Western society, but to keep pushing to this, to say, now we're going to debate basic biological reality and you have to accept it or you're hateful. Now you can't think for yourself. You can't even address certain topics, or even to talk about certain topics means you're racist, or by nature of your skin color and your whiteness, you are not allowed to speak on certain things. They pushed so hard that it eventually imploded. On the right, I see it going the same way, where in victory for the conservatives, in a post-Trump victory of 2024, what do you do with that victory? Do you now acknowledge it, have gratitude, and take personal responsibility? Or do you keep pushing to say, well, I have to keep keeping my audience thinking that there's a boogeyman, thinking that there's a fight to be had? There's been so many victories, and instead of appreciating that, they just keep pushing and pushing into these extreme fringe territory that is not tolerable, beyond the Overton window, that's out of bounds, I think, for decent common sense people, and that's going to cause the right to implode. I don't think you can unify with those who seek to divide you. That's a contradiction in terms. I like unity, but I don't like unity on because of relationships with certain people. You have to unify around common ideas and values. That's what unity is about, that we can all agree on certain common things. But you can't, if those ideas are completely contradictory, then you can't unify with them. They're incompatible. So actual anti-Semitism, actual racism, becoming the very caricature the left called the right for years, is a recipe not for victory, but for disaster, for failure. Because if you unify with those people, then the accusations from the AOCs of the world that called you false claims of racism for years suddenly become true. Why would you hand it to them on a silver platter? I think you make yourself distinct from what the left did by drawing those lines and saying that on principle is what we stand, not on blind allegiance to people or a tribe or a team, but on principle. That's what makes conservatives conservatives. And I think that's the kind of thing you need to unify around, not try to seek to unify with those who have bad intentions, nefarious intentions that seek to divide you. That's how you lose, not win.
Shout out to Ami, man. That was spot on the money. And let's paint a picture real quick. At the current moment, the GOP, conservative, Republicans, whatever, have a lot of wins under their belt. Lots of wins. And they're winning the culture war. We're winning on a lot of different stages. Why in the world, in the midst of winning and getting sentiment where people are saying, you know what, they're really not racist. They're really not as bad as I was told that they are. They're really not as bad as what the talking heads and the Democrats have said. Why in the world, in the midst of collecting these W's, would you now embrace people who are going to cause, who basically the left was saying that we are? Tucker, Candace, Nick, fill in the blank. Like, why would you do that now while you're winning? It's not like you're scrambling to win, or you're scrambling to find a victory, snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. We're winning. Why would we now side with Yahtzees? Why would we now side with outright racists? Why would we now side with people who have the fringiest, most ridiculous ideas possible? I mean, we're looking at currently siding with white BLM type of mindsets, which is crazy work. And remember what happened to the left when they did that. So why would we side with them? It makes no sense. And I don't think, and I like that Ami said it has to be principles. I'm going to just correct them and say it has to be Christ-centric principles. It can't just be something that the wind blows this Tuesday, because next week it'll be something different. That's my only thing, but let's finish this up. Great conversation.
I've often wondered, how much of it is spiritual. I know there's a spiritual component to it, but it's very interesting because we could run away with this victory like a runaway train. I mean, we could have J.D. Vance get the next 2 terms, and we'll have a Republican in office for 3 terms in a row. And I think the left will probably never regain structure. But what's happening is that people on the right are aligning with people on the left. They're aligning with complaining about America, complaining about the fact that people can't eat and we don't have enough resources and all this. And they're buying into the victim narrative from the left. And therefore, it's going to just take somebody like Gavin Newsom to come out and capitulate to all the victim narratives. And then what's going to happen? Because they got to hate J.D. Vance if he support Israel. They have to hate J.D. Vance. So there's going to be a contingency of people saying, well, J.D. Vance isn't good enough for us. And then they're going to push people to go vote for a Democrat. And then we're going to have the cycle all over again. The Democrat going to do their thing. They're going to get victories, and they're going to be evil again. And they're going to start pushing things that's intolerable. And then the right is going to get power again. It's like, I just wish that people on the right will get their heads out of their butts when it comes to this Israel thing. I just think that's the crux.
No, it's not just Israel. I understand. And look, I understand the vast majority of our conversation has been around Israel. That's not, there are other places in the world. There are other people groups in the world. For crying out loud, Nick Fuentes hates everybody that's on the screen right now. Tucker Carlson despises everybody that's on the screen right now. We don't need to go to Israel to have this conversation, Brandon. We can talk about the fact that Nick Fuentes got beef with you and me. I don't know if you've ever seen Brandon. Brandon is a huge dude. I ain't gonna have no beef with Brandon. Okay, that's a big brother. I don't have no problem with him. But Nick Fuentes got beef with us. So we don't have to talk about what his issues are with Israel. We can talk about his issues with black people right off the bat. Like, I think we we put ourselves in a trick bag, making everything, every punchline is Israel. It's not. Again, I think that their positioning on Israel is horrible, but their position on women is horrible. Their position on blacks are horrible. Hispanics are horrible. Their positions on the poor are horrible. Their positions on non-Christians are horrible. Their positions on Christians are horrible. Let's tell the truth. So there's a lot of stuff right here stateside. There's enough issues. We do not have to get our passports to get offended to go over there to be offended. We can be offended right here for free and go to Buc-ee's. Let's go.
Of everything. I mean, I don't even think it has anything else to do with nothing else but Jew hatred. And what happens with Jew hatred is that people who are incredibly influential creates this Jew hatred in the minds of unsuspecting people that are not researching and not looking at anything. They just believe these talents and personalities and they go, if this person said it, it must be right. And it's just this rise of anti-Semitism. I used to think anti-Semitism wasn't real. I mean, like it wasn't a legitimate, it's like racism. Everybody's racist if you don't like them. Then I'm starting to really see like, wait a minute, that's what that is.
Yeah, and it's exactly what happened, the left had the same end-all be-all answer for all of the world's problems and all of your problems, and it was racism, white privilege, white supremacy. These are causing all the problems, and you can't fix it. And the right is saying, in a lot of ways, Israel, AIPAC, anti-Semitism, Israel, AIPAC, the Jews, using these old tropes to say, you are not responsible for your failures or your successes. You can't get out of it. There's this other powerful interest controlling us, and they're dog whistling to all of that. Now, what does that do? This is a left-wing tactic to shift responsibility from yourself, from your community, from your family, to put it on others and blame others for your.
I do not. Come on, Ami. I'm right there with y'all. That's the problem. Shout out to Ami Kozack. That's the problem. Like, no, my issues are right here at Whitaker Park. There's not some puppet master moving the strings and moving the dials. It's me. It's my problems. Good gracious, man. Shout out to Kozack.
Problems. That's a left-wing tactic that people on the right are calling to unify with. I don't think so. I say you have to draw the clear lines to demonstrate what a right-wing victory looks like. And if it looks like this kind of squabbling and infighting over what? The only democracy in the Middle East, the only true ally that America has and that has shared values with the United States, that's what we're going to break the brain of the right over. It's insane. And yes, the AOCs, the Gavin Newsoms are just going to walk right in and say, told you so, and they won't be wrong. Now, how tragic would that be? What a waste. What a wasted opportunity to actually get some constructive things done. And props to Trump for going to Israel and saying, I don't care what anybody says. I love Israel. I do. I love Israel. So he's kind of holding the line there and saying, I love Israel. Great country. You guys are so great, because he's a no-nonsense person in that regard. So I think he is pushing back on those elements. But for whatever reason, I think there's an element of wanting to tear it all down, just like the left wants to do, wanting to create confusion and demoralize people. That's what the left wants to do. It's these same elements. They're the same to me. And I think it behooves us to make reasonable arguments and not shame those who may be susceptible to these bad arguments, to say that in their ignorance doesn't mean they're evil and bad. And if they have questions, it should not be met with condemnation. And I also don't think it's a good idea to tell people who they can and can't be friends with privately. That doesn't mean you can't scrutinize and criticize bad ideas and views publicly. Everybody's got crazy friends. We've all been at meals or lunch with people who say crazy things. But if they were out there publicly doing it in a certain way, I wouldn't necessarily have to condemn them in the totality of that person, but I can say these views are really, really bad and really harmful. Here's why. And I think there's some tactics that can be employed on all sides to help that conversation become a little more constructive and productive without making demands, but engaging in the way I think you and I are doing, where we're trying to, appeal to people's common sense and common values and principles. You don't have to sever ties with everyone completely. To publicly disavow a person is different than to publicly criticize a viewpoint. And I think those are the kind of ways in which we can kind of help get out of this, because I know a lot, if you've put in 12 years with somebody and you've built movements and you've done things, I can understand why it's hard to, when you know people, when someone knows someone personally, whoever those people may be, we're reacting to avatars of people, and if Megan knows Tucker personally and has had dinner with him, yes, she might know a person that we don't know. She might know this person who isn't privately have any problem with Jews or anything like that, but it gives her a blind spot, unfortunately, to this public posturing and this behavior that's happening for all of us and for all of the masses of people watching. They have a very different reaction and are being impacted very negatively towards things he's doing that you might be able to see through, but you think you're seeing through it. We think you're blind spotting to it. You know what I mean? You have blinders on because you know a person we don't know. Fair enough. So you can keep that person in your life, but these views need to be called out and confronted. And this kind of behavior needs to be, I think, addressed.
And I'm glad you brought that up because I think it's a big difference between someone having private friendships but calling out the issues versus a person having private conversation and not calling out the issues. Like it's the only thing that, and I love Megyn Kelly, but when she would say, "I'm not going to come out against Candace," I get it. Me and Candace are really good friends. I'm not going to blast Candace online openly. I'm going to challenge the ideas, but she won't even challenge the ideas. You know, that's the thing that Megyn bothers me because like Tucker, I don't know him whatsoever, and I don't like him at all. I don't know him as a person.
Well, I love you. I love you. I'm just kidding. I hate you. What does like mean? I don't know what like means. What does that even mean? I don't even know what that means. But anyway,
that guy is he's very interesting because this is my whole fault with a lot of these people is that I feel like they know better, but they do it anyway. I cannot imagine somebody with the amount of intelligence that they either claim to have or they previously had, and they would go down a rabbit hole of saying things that's not even remotely true, that's verifiably false. Like for instance, like Thomas Massey, you know, in Congress in America, I think he's a congressman. Well, he goes. And it's not. I never said anything bad about Thomas Massey because I know he has this thing about Jews. Who cares? Like I don't care. I'm not Israeli, so and like every battle I got to fight. But then it's when he posts this, he went online on Twitter and he posts that debt per person in America is 113,000, which is I don't know where you got that number from because if you look at the national debt and you look at the population, it's really more of 111,000. But anyway, he got this number up here, and then he go debt per person in Israel is 37,000. Then he go, Israel publicly funds abortions. Why do we send them money? Now, I wouldn't be upset with this if he also mentioned all the other places that we fund, all the other governments that are lobbying our government and doing all this stuff. If he mentioned them, I would shut the front door. But this guy mentions debt when America's debt is way beyond funding to Israel. Like $38 trillion in debt. We give Israel $3.8 billion a year for military funding that they have to spend exclusively with American military equipment. And I did a little math for him because he's disingenuous at best. What I got when I did the math was that if you divide the debt to every American, that's babies and everything else, I guess if people want to do it that way, then it's $111,000, 753, $111,753 is what it comes out to without funding Israel. Funding Israel, literally the debt goes up by $11. So are you really making your whole bet and pushing your platform to say we shouldn't give money to Israel because that increased America's debt by $11? That is literally like one latte less a year for an American, or over the lifetime of the debt is one latte less at Starbucks. Like, but the ramifications for isolationism and defunding Israel is way more consequential than American debt being $11. Like, if somehow we say we won't fund Israel, and the extremist radical Islamic terrorists take over Israel, they're going to get all the equipment that we've been giving them. They're going to have all the technology. They're going to rape and pillage and kill as many people as they can. A lot of refugees from Israel are going to have to come to America because that's one of the only places they will be allowed with safety and security. And then we're going to end up fighting a battle with them at some point in the future that's going to cost more than $3.8 billion a year. I do not understand the logic. And it's not that Massey said it. It's why are you saying this? Why does Marjorie Taylor Greene not tell the totality of funding when they claim that we're giving so much money to Israel?
There's also the $7,000 payments that need to be funded by for all of us and all of our amazing posts after post after post. I just keep doing it. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. But it's always been this issue of this weird thing where it's not Israel meddling in the United States, as that accusation is constantly thrown at Israel. It's all of these people obsessing with Israel. They're the ones obsessing and scrutinizing over every little thing Israel does to prosecute a war that they don't do with any other country, even when America's involved in those too. It's just not the same. So it's a funny, weird sort of admission and a projection where they're saying how Israel's meddling and entangling into U.S. affairs, but it's really them who are meddling and obsessing over everything Israel is doing when it's a country the size of New Jersey. And what they mean to suggest is that it has that much power, this little country the size of New Jersey, with the Knesset, with its government, the parliament that Trump visited. That's what Israel is, the size of New Jersey, facing existential threats that no other country faces. They're the ones dragging the world's biggest economy, biggest military, strongest country around. That's what's the impression? The tail that wags the dog or something. I mean, that's their contention. That's what they're saying. It's kind of ridiculous, and it provides this ultimate scapegoat for them not to actually face the issues they have to address. I mean, if you can always point at that, there are so many other things the U.S. spends money on, wastes money on, so many things we all could agree need to be cut, rather than focusing on the contentious ones we disagree. And there's so many things you could get in line on and say, let's all agree that these and these and these and these are wasteful. One can argue about foreign aid as a technical discussion over what's practical, what makes sense. I can understand those arguments, and not all of them in theory come from a hateful place. But the obsession over this one, the funding of Israel through military credits that they have to spend in the United States to fight enemies that America also shares, to gather intelligence that protect American interests. I mean, look, we have that position, so I get it. And you can argue over that. There are people who are very Zionist, pro-Israel, who are also not into foreign aid because it can compromise, Israel's ability to be fully autonomous and exercise its military the way it sees fit. I mean, there's frustrations that come with that. There are costs to Israel for accepting foreign aid. I'll give you an example. Like, even when Biden was president and Israel had to evacuate like hundreds of thousands of people in the north, they had to evacuate people while Hezbollah was raining down rockets. I asked a friend of mine who's a soldier in an elite unit, like, I don't get it. Why is Israel tolerating rocket fire every single day in their northern communities and keeping people evacuated from their schools, from their neighborhoods, from their lives? And he said, why do you think? It's because there's 3 aircraft carrier in the vicinity of Israel that have to approve every Israeli strike. And according to him, the Biden administration did not want escalation in the north of Hezbollah, so they did not approve of Israeli counterstrikes to deal with that threat, even though they could have. Now, take that for what it is. That was his position on it, his opinion. But it just gives you a sense that it's Israel that often has to, most of the time, answer to what America demands, because America is the largest economy, the strongest military. They are calling the shots, not the other way around. Just use logic and common sense and you come to that. But when these people point to boogeyman, it's just this low-hanging fruit, low-resolution thinking. And oftentimes these people do that. You realize they're operating from, their arguments are 1 or 2 layers deep, and that's it. And it's all very cinematic way of looking at the politics, that, behind the scenes is this, these players in suits who are secretly having these documents that they're not telling you what's really going on. But really, those people perpetuating those narratives are the ones, I think, being fooled and, painting a fiction.
Shout out to Ami Kozack, who was on Brandon Tatum's show yesterday, I believe it was, or this weekend. Great interview, and I'll make sure I leave the link to the full video down below. And I believe the mods have already dropped it in the chat at one time or another. And look, I'm cool with geopolitics and dealing with foreign nations and such like that. But there's a lot of things right here inside the United States that we need to work on, that we need to deal with, that we can unify around and drive home. I don't think that we need to, as Ami said, like, there's a lot of things that we can support that we don't have to get into the contentious ones. And I agree with that. There are things right now that we can discuss, that we can be honest about and transparent about and deal with right here in the United States. And we can literally get a coalition of probably 80% of Americans would be in support of it. There's a lot of them. Why not focus on those things that build, that we can support and we can get behind and rally behind? There's still going to be things we disagree on. There's going to even in those coalition of ideas, there's still going to be some things that maybe I would have done it differently. That's still going to be the case. However, we don't have to argue about some of these things. Like, again, Israel, that's going to be contentious. That's going to have a lot of people in their feelings. Let's not argue about that one right now. Let's talk about what we can do right here. Do we need to build a coalition? Do we need to unify with people who hate the idea of marriage and don't believe that a man could be a man and a man should be a man and a woman should be a woman? Can we really unify with them at all? Can we? Is there any unity there with people who believe that little people in the mother's womb should be able to be munched up? Is there any unity? How do we find unity with people who despise the highly melanated community? How do we find unity with the highly melanated community that despises the less melanated community? How do we find unity there? Is there unity that we can find it? No, then we can't rally behind them. We need to get them. Those people need to get pushed out of the tent because they're not helping, because their ideas are going to pull the whole tent off a cliff. Look at what happened to the left. We should go back and study what happened to the left and how they got to where they are now with the blue hair septum rings running the party. Who did that? They did. That's what I want y'all to check out. Thank y'all so much for jumping in. This was an impromptu live stream. I will be back this evening. This afternoon, we will do a watch party for Candace's whatever she's been doing. It looks like she's kind of crashing out. Yes, they look pretty bad. So we will be doing a watch party. And then at 7:00, I will be doing my book discussion on Pilgrim's Progress. Link down in the description and all that kind of good stuff. I have to get chief executive, second born to her doctor's appointment. So everybody, thank you for rocking with me. I appreciate y'all. Thank you for supporting the channel. And I'll be coming back to talk about it again this afternoon. So until then, grace and peace. Take care. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Jay Whitt Podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please do me a favor and hit me up with that 3-piece special. Like the video, subscribe, and of course, share it with somebody who would also enjoy this type of content. And make sure you leave a comment because I do pin the best comments to the top. So thank you so much for tuning in today. And until next time, everybody, grace and peace.